Today what we want to do is just give you some information about how NCSL works to try and make this as easy for you as possible as you're moving through this season. We recognize that you all are volunteers, just like many of us. I am a volunteer. I've been volunteering for this organization for quite some time, and we want to make things as easy as possible. So that's why we do meetings like tonight to help you understand how we work, to try and remove some of the stress out of this situation that I know I had when I was a manager volunteering for my child's U9 team way back when. I found it to be stressful, and so that's why we do this, try and just relieve any sort of concern that you might have about it. So we're going to show you how NCSL works, how to communicate with the league, and then what your individual responsibilities would be as a manager or coach of a team. The agenda is to introduce the league, to talk about the team administrator's role, the league administrator's role, that's Allison, your club representative's role, which is very important, and talk a little bit about the laws and procedures, and then the rules and discipline committee. So just NCSL at a glance, we are the largest league in the DMV. We're one of the largest leagues in the country, and one of the very oldest. The league was founded in the 1970s, before even U.S. Youth Soccer was founded. We're now at 1,300 plus teams. We run from U9 to U19. We have 60 or so clubs from Maryland, DC, Virginia, West Virginia, occasionally even Pennsylvania. We'll have some clubs from Pennsylvania who join. We also run a recreational component. This is going to be a conversation solely about travel. If you are a rec team administrator, club rep, this is not really a presentation for you, although you're welcome to stay. We are an organization that's run by an executive committee that meets monthly. Those are individuals who've been involved with the league for a very long time, supported by the board of directors. The board of directors is made up of a single club representative from each one of our member clubs. That means that you, as a manager or as a coach of a team in NCSL, you are a participant in the league through a club, and that club has direct representation on our board of directors as a member that runs the organization. We, the officers and the staff, answer to that board of directors, and all of our policies are policies that have been initiated by the board, has been voted on by the board, and approved by the board. And that's how we run. It's kind of upside down. We don't tell them what to do. The clubs tell us what to do. And I think that makes a lot of sense for us. We have, it's approximately 12,000 games a year, which unfortunately means that we won't know what game is being played at Kenchelo on a particular Saturday. And it really means that there are just too many games for our very thin staff to be able to know exactly what's happening at a particular moment. And so we try and make things more diffuse, more spread out in terms of management. And again, that's why these club representatives, each one being a board member as well, that's why they're so important. We'll talk about that. Very quickly about youth soccer, it is alphabet soup. And you've heard about the changing, leagues are always changing, renames, all the rest. We, NCSL, sit in this pyramid where everybody who plays in NCSL is a member of FIFA. FIFA has various members, the countries, federations, and U.S. Soccer is obviously our federation here in the U.S. Within that pyramid, U.S. Soccer is a member of U.S. Youth Soccer is a member of U.S. Soccer. You may also hear about something called U.S. Club. You may also hear about something called MLS Next or Girls Academy. Those are other levels of members of U.S. Soccer. Our particular member is U.S. Youth Soccer. That's the only organization that we play with. So any players that are playing in NCSL must be members of US Youth Soccer. Now, what you really do is you register with a state association. That's that next level: Virginia Youth Soccer, Maryland State Youth Soccer Association, or West Virginia Soccer Association. And so your team is registered with the state, your players are all registered with the state, and those players will all have cards, and your team will have a roster, all of which is approved by the state association. All of those cards, all of those would have the US Youth Soccer label on them. And that's why those are the only kids, the only teams that are allowed to play in NCSL. This will matter to some of you because in some of your organizations, you may have teams that are participating in ECNL or ECNL Regional League or NPL or EDP or I'm trying to think of all the different alphabet soup, but there are a lot of different leagues out there. And the only players that can participate in NCSL are the ones that are members of US Youth Soccer. So for all those leagues I mentioned, the only one that is a US Youth Soccer league is EDP. The others are not. Again, our organization is run by a board of directors and executive committee that is made up of all of the clubs, and then the team administrators, the coaches, the parents, the players, all being members of NCSL. So let's talk about the team administrator and what the team administrator does. That's typically the manager, is what we would call them. The first thing is that you need to have familiarity with the NCSL website. This is a screenshot that we took some time ago. You'll see down the left-hand side, and this is at ncsl-soccer.com. You'll see down the left-hand side that we have the NCSL rules and procedures. We have the division structure. We have the schedules and results. Those are probably the three things that you'll be, or the two really, which is the schedules and results and NCSL rules and procedures, that you'll be paying the most attention to. You'll also see that the fall 2023, now it's fall 2024, new team administrator meeting presentation is up on the website down that left-hand side, as is the presentation itself, the slides there. They're on the left-hand side. And we'll be updating it again to reflect this season. You'll want to be familiar with that website and make sure that you're giving that website address to your to the members who are playing on your team, the parents and the kids. Other resources that you'll find are the administrator season checklist and the administrator game day cheat sheet, right? These are two documents that we've created that give you kind of a simple and very, very easy checklist of things that you'll want to do either for the season, to prepare for the season, or on a game day for what the rules and procedures are for a game day. And again, just going back to the website, those two items are on the homepage on the left-hand side. You'll see that team administrator and referee game day cheat sheet right there on the homepage of the website. You'll want to make sure that you have a team roster. This particular example is a roster out of Virginia Youth Soccer Association roster. You'll see that it has pictures of players. It has pictures of the team officials. It's an official roster that's been printed out for the particular season at issue. And each one of the kids that are on this roster have been approved by the state to play in this game. And again, you'll notice that it has the Virginia logo on it, and it has that US Youth Soccer logo on the roster. We accept only US Youth Soccer players, and of course, all the teams are registered in US Youth Soccer. In terms of game day reporting after a game has been played, again, you'll see a link on the website. You'll follow that link for the game score report and fill out the form to report the score. Both teams can report the score, and they would just follow that particular link there. We've included a slide that shows If you go to that website, you'll see that there's a PIN number, a game number, the team names, the final score that are being asked for, and that password is sitting there. Allison, is there a new password for the current season? Is it spring 2025?
The PIN number is the same, and
Okay.
we'll update those slides. 3101. Yeah.
All right. So when you're using that phone it in system, it's still 3101 is the password to upload those scores. All right, the league administrator, as I mentioned, is Allison, and she is here on the phone. So I'm going to turn it over to her and let her walk through her role as the league administrator.
Okay, thank you. So my primary job is to set up and maintain the game schedule. So everybody should have already seen their schedules on their team pages. And for the most part, those schedules are set. Now, there will be weekends that will have rainouts or field closures. And on those weekends, the process is that your club rep will notify the league if a field is closed. And then you will see an update on the website if a field is closed. And you'll also receive an email notifying you with rescheduled game information. So a couple things are important here. The first is that we operate internally in terms of field closures. So please don't rely on a Parks and Rec phone number or a city website. Your club reps are the ones, or your field admins for your clubs are the ones that notify the league directly for field closures. And the game that was canceled, if it was canceled because of rain, will be automatically rescheduled. At that point, if the game is rescheduled, or when the game is rescheduled, if the new time and date don't work for you, the teams will have a couple of days to work out a flex reschedule. So you'll see a new deadline for that flex reschedule in your rescheduled game email. Once you receive notice, some club reps and field admins will notify their team separately from league communications. If you hear from your club rep that your field is closed on a game day, please notify your opponents immediately, just to prevent, sometimes games are a good distance away. So make sure to notify your opponents as soon as possible. They will also receive the rescheduled game information, but it's just as a courtesy, just let them know that the game has been rescheduled. And again, all field closures on any given Saturday or Sunday are posted on the NCSL website, which is ncsl-soccer.com. There's a big column on the right-hand side, and when the field screen is green, that means everything's open, and when it's yellow, that means there are specific field closures. I would like to mention just briefly that sometimes in a field complex, there are some fields that are open and some that are closed. So just please make sure to pay attention that if field 3 is closed, field 5 may still be open. And those are always marked very specifically on the website. All right, so I mentioned flex rescheduling. I think that's the next slide. The flex reschedule process is one that your club reps, who are members of the board of directors, voted on to allow teams to utilize. So if you have a situation where the majority of your team can't attend a game, we give you an opportunity to request to reschedule the game. It is the decision, or actually ultimately the accommodation of the home team if there's a field available on the requested date. A couple things to keep in mind is that teams are only, by the NCSL rules, teams are only allowed to play one game per day. So make sure that you are selecting a date that your team or your opponent's team doesn't already have a game scheduled. And also, we're very strict about the deadlines for this rescheduling, and that's to accommodate referee assigners and making sure that we can get referees to your games. For this spring, and again, we will update these slides on the website, for all April game reschedules, that deadline is 5 o'clock on Friday, March 28th. So a lot of teams, because we play 9 games in 8 weeks, almost every team has games the weekend of April 12th and 13th, which for a lot of school systems is the beginning of spring break. So please make sure that if the majority of your team cannot attend a game that weekend, that you begin this process now, because it takes the approval of the home team, field coordinator, and or club rep to approve the reschedule request before we can finalize it and process it for you. For May and June games, that deadline to submit a flex reschedule request is Friday, April 25th. And again, we'll update these slides. You will have a window of time to if the flex rescheduling deadlines have passed. Let's say that our first weekend in April, hopefully this won't happen, but the first weekend in April, if games are rained out and the games are automatically rescheduled on a Saturday or Sunday, you typically have until the following Tuesday. So again, it's a short amount of time, but you'll have until the following Tuesday to submit a flex reschedule request. And that deadline will be posted in your email that you get with the rescheduled game information. For more information about how to initiate or to complete an online flex reschedule request, there is a video on the website, and like a little tutorial video, and then also a list of directions. And you can also contact your club rep, who the club representatives have a wealth of information about how to help you get ready for the season. So I think there's all I need to say about that, unless, oh, here we go. I'm sorry, go back one more. Right, okay, a couple of reminders. The home team club rep needs to approve to validate that the field that the teams are requesting is actually available at the time. Is field admins and club reps often are juggling games from several leagues and several sports, so we need to make sure that the field is available. And please remember that game reschedule requests are just requests, and sometimes if games are not able to be rescheduled, then typically your club rep will let you know why, because I will let them know why, and they're the communicator for you. Most of the time we try to accommodate, but there are sometimes that doesn't happen. And the reschedule request is not official, and this is really important. It's not official until your team page has been updated with the new time and date. So your team page will always have accurate schedule and the updated schedule. So if you don't see the change and you've requested a change, and especially if it's getting close to the deadline, please reach out to your club rep to see what the holdup is, because you don't want to wait till after the deadline to follow up on that. But the schedule on your team page is the official schedule for the season.
All right, thank you, Allison.
Thank you.
We're going to talk a little about the club representative role. For all of you, it's important, and we talk about club reps all the time. It's important for you to know who your club rep is. And the way you can do that, if you don't know already, is you can go to the NCSL website at ncsl-soccer.com. You can use your mouse to click on the word clubs at the top, which is a listing of all of our clubs. Find your club name, press on that, and you'll see on that page your designated NCSL club representative. This is someone that your club has chosen to be the board member for your club with NCSL. And they are someone who is very knowledgeable about the rules and procedures of NCSL. They're very well known to Allison, and they communicate quite often about issues that may affect your club. So that is the person who in NCSL is best available, is the best person to reach out to if you have questions about the league. There are simply just too many people to be able to give you good answers if you were to reach out to Allison. So it is the club representative that's most knowledgeable and most appropriate to answer questions. Your club rep handles all the communications with NCSL. The flex rescheduling request that Allison just went through, the club rep handles that. Any sort of registration issues with NCSL, the club rep handles that. Extraordinary game changes, they will be included on any rainout communication. Anything that has to do with NCSL and your club, your team, your club rep will be copied on that if it's coming to you, or it will be going just to the club rep if the teams are not involved. So that person is very important. Is somebody that you should reach out to and introduce yourself to if you haven't met them already. The managers, the parents, the players should never be contacting NCSL directly. All those communications come to the club rep. We had a situation about a year ago where a kid, one of the players of a young team, I think it was U11, wrote to us and said, the game is canceled, the field is closed. And we didn't know exactly who it was. Thank goodness we didn't listen to the person who wrote to us. We only listened to the club reps on that sort of thing. We did communicate with the club rep and ask, hey, we just got word that your field is closed due to rain, but we're not seeing any rain. And it was a child that was playing a prank and was hoping to get a forfeit out of a game by inappropriately trying to cancel a game. So we don't listen to that. We only listen to the club reps on those sorts of things, and that's why. We do want to make sure that we are communicating with the club rep, and the club rep is communicating with you. But we also have a lot of information on the NCSL website, and we've already been through some of that right now. All the schedules, all the results, the standings, all of that is available to you on the website. If there is a reschedule of a game, your team page will be updated with your schedule. You will always know when your games are being scheduled, because that team page, the schedule that's on your team page, is always going to be the most updated version of your schedule. Field directions, whether a field is closed, that information is on the website. Opponent information, contact information for your opponent so that you can talk to them in advance about things like what color jersey are you going to wear? Is there anything I need to know about parking or bathrooms or anything else related to traveling to go to visit an opponent? All of that's on the website. The rules are on the website. Procedures for what happens if a rule is violated, that's on the website. Information about card accumulation, red cards, yellow cards, and the discipline that would follow from that are on the website. And any sort of form that you would need, a sit-out form or any sort of form that you might need, all of that is available on the website. I think we've talked about the website itself. So let's talk a little bit about laws and procedures. You probably know this, but it's worth just talking about very quickly. At U9 and U10, we have a maximum number, and this is by US youth soccer rules, US soccer rules. There's a maximum number of 12 on a roster on a particular game. We do implement the US soccer mandated build-out line, which is required in the United States for all U9 to U10 games. We have a link on our website to an instructional video on what the build-out line means and how that's implemented. There is no heading allowed in U9, U10 games. That's by order of US Soccer. We do not publish game results on U9, U10 games. We do ask that you phone them in because we use them to help try and normalize competition in future seasons and understand whether the decisions we've made for who's going to play who make sense going forward. But we don't make them public because we don't want children at 9 and 10 to be looking at a website every week trying to decide whether they're good enough or not at soccer to continue in the game. We think it's important for them to feel like the game is about learning and about having fun, especially at those ages. And so we don't publish those scores. The divisions are based on feedback from the clubs. The club has told us, we want our team in this division. And we've tried to honor that as much as humanly possible. Typically what they do is they say, on a scale of 1 to 5 or 1 to 10, we think this team is a 2, or we think this team is a 7. And they've given us that information about your teams. And then we've taken all the 2s and all the 7s, and we've had them play similar teams, trying to take into account the geography. How far is it? Because we don't want U9s having to travel hours to go to a game. It doesn't make any sense. We're such a big league. We want you to play close to home if there's appropriate competition there. We only have one referee for U9, U10, and you have unlimited ability to use club test players, which we'll talk about that. But that means that the kids that show up on a particular day can be supplemented with other other players that are not assigned to that particular roster, but there are restrictions on how that works. At U11, U12, the roster bumps up on game day to 16. It's a little big for U9 or U11, U12 in my opinion, but you can bring 16 kids and have them play if you want to. We still don't head at U11, but we do at U12. In the fall, we don't record scores, we don't publish scores, but in the spring, which is what we're entering into at U11, we start showing the scores on the website on a weekly basis. And it will be in this spring of U11 that we will divide out the teams by division number for the very first time. So teams are being put in Division 1, which is our best division, Division 2, Division 3, and done so purposely based on where we thought they probably worked out over the last couple of years, and based very heavily on club input on where those teams should be, Division 1 through 10 or 11, however many we have. And this is the first time for that. From here forward, the teams going into U13 and up will be based on a promotion relegation. It is a rough promotion relegation, but it is nevertheless, it's based on performance. How did you do last season? How did you do last year? And then we'll move them up and move them down based on that. Again, we only have one referee at U11, U12, and we have the unlimited club pass. At U13, we bump up again to 18 on the roster. You can still only play 11 at a time, but we move up to 18. We have unlimited club pass, and now we've introduced the 3 referees, 1 referee in the center and the 2 club lines, or the 2 assistant referees. Some critical things about game day procedure. I've mentioned the unlimited club pass, and I mentioned there are restrictions. Here are the restrictions. If you're going to use a substitute player, right, a club pass player, somebody who's not on the roster already, then they must be a U.S. youth soccer player, first and foremost. Can't be U.S. club. That means no ECNL. It means no MLS Next, no Girls Academy, no MPL. A U.S. club player only. That player has to be registered to your club within U.S. youth soccer. So player has to be on a team that's a U.S. youth soccer team in your club, not another club. And they have to be age eligible. They can't play down. So those are the restrictions. A U.S. youth player registered to your club, not playing down. They would be playing on age. They can play up, but they can't play down. When you're using the club pass player, you still have the limit on the game day roster size, so that the limitations of 12, 14, or 16 and 18 for those age groups, you still have to abide by the game day roster size. If there are sit outs that are required, you have to abide by the sit outs. And then we really don't want you to bring your Division 1 players to a Division 8 game and go destroy the opponent just to get the ego out of it. We want you to use the club pass for the spirit in which the club pass is available, which is, hey, our goalie is on vacation, we need a goalie. Or a player was injured and they're just coming back to playing soccer after injury and we want to try them out in a lower level game. Or this player's playing really well on his lower level team, and we want to give him the opportunity to play up on a higher level team. That's really why we have the club pass. It's not to go destroy the team that you're playing next week and have kind of an unfair competition. We want these competitions to be fair, and we hope you'll help police that. We don't allow more than 1 game in a day. We have removed the restriction. We used to say you are forbidden from playing more than 1 game in a day, and then COVID hit and people needed substitute players, so we removed that. But the team is only going to be scheduled for 1 game in a day. We strongly encourage you not to let players play in more than 1 game a day, but we understand circumstances may require that from time to time. But it's not good for the players. It's bad for their health, and we don't want you to do it, but we're not going to penalize you if you do. Again, only U.S. youth soccer state-approved rosters. That's the only one you can use. You use that roster that I showed you, you bring it to the game, show it to the referee, and only U.S. youth soccer rosters can be used for that. And then, of course, as I mentioned, the team admin or the coach will report that game's score directly to NCSL using that link on the website. For Club Pass players, when you present the roster to the referee, you will need to write down the names of your Club Pass players who are going to be playing in that game. Write them down on the roster so that the referee has a record of it. And we would want to include not just the name of the player, but also their jersey number that they're going to use in that game so that the referee can identify them. And those Club Pass players you'll need to bring their card with them. That will not be a card that's on your team, so you may not have it otherwise, but that you'll have to bring the card and show that to the referee to verify that that player is registered with US Youth Soccer, just as you would with your other players. We have some things that I will go into today, but you should read about in the Rules and Procedures Manual. One is the team sportsmanship liaison. It's an adult that kind of has a title for that day, and some added responsibilities, and you'll want to look at that. For rules and discipline, you're going to hear a lot in other contexts about the new referee abuse policy that US Soccer just imposed on all of America. Everybody short of MLS has a new referee abuse policy. It is strict, it is harsh, it is mandatory. And we are looking at how to implement this because we must. But the penalties are very, very severe. Even things that fall short of referee abuse, just misconduct that involves a referee, you could be looking at multi-game suspensions and time suspended away from the game of soccer. And this is kids, this is coaches, this is team officials like you. Anybody who's on the roster is subject to this mandatory discipline. And then the state associations are also implementing these disciplinary penalties as instructive of penalties that spectators should get as well. So if your parent is yelling out to the referee, I can't believe you missed that call. What are you, blind? You're missing a good game, ref. Any of that sort of thing, they could be looking at 2, 3, 4 game suspension. And if the referee is a child under the age of 18, those mandatory penalties are doubled, which is very severe. And then on a third strike, even for trivial misconduct, a third strike would earn the player, the coach, the team official, or the spectator a lifetime ban from soccer. It is a very, very harsh penalty. And again, US Soccer implemented this effective March 1st of this year, and everybody's trying to figure out how to implement it. But it's really because of this slide that we're talking about right now, which is that most referees quit after one season. And it's the number one reason that they say they're quitting is because of the verbal abuse that they get during a game. A lot of our referees are brand new because it's youth soccer. A lot of our referees are kids. They're under the age of 18 because it's youth soccer. This is where they go to learn. This is where they grow and try and figure out whether they like refereeing, and maybe they'll continue with it for a little bit. But most of them quit because they just can't take the abuse, and we need to stop that. I would have stopped short of the very harsh mandatory penalties that US Soccer has implemented, but US Soccer's decided that we don't have a choice. They've decided that it's so bad that they have to impose the very, very harsh penalties that they're imposing. And you'll see more about that. We have a rules and discipline committee within the league. They review the referee report on every single game. So the referee is required to put in a report or they don't get paid. We review every one of those reports to see what happened at the game and to determine whether there's follow-up that needs to happen from the league. If there is a protest of a game, then there's a fee for a protest, but the Rules and Discipline Committee would handle that protest. If there is a game that was abandoned by the referee or terminated because of rain or something along those lines, then the Rules and Discipline Committee decides what to do with that as a first decision. They maintain a database of cards that players get. If there's a red card or a yellow card, they maintain that database and would have additional discipline that could be imposed based on point accumulation for cards. And then they can issue fines up to $800 on coaches, managers, or teams, players even, for inappropriate behavior at games. And they can also suspend. We've had games where the Rules and Discipline Committee has ordered a new game to be played for a game that was terminated due to bad behavior. And the Rules and Discipline Committee has said no spectators will be allowed at games as a result of prior bad behavior. So their power is fairly broad. And now with the U.S. soccer requirements, it's going to be mandatory penalties for them that will be significant. If you go to your team page, and this is a very old team page, but this is a team page for Stafford Revolution, you'll see that there is a link for persons receiving cards. It's circled on this slide. If you were to press on that link, you would see something that looks like the bottom of this page, where you can see that 3 or 4 people have received cards of various types during the season. And you'll see that there is a calculation of the points that were earned by those players and one staff member as a result of those cards. Those points are important because if you were to get a red card, you owe a sit out, as you would in any league. You get a red card, you sit out the next game. But if you get too many cards, then you owe an accumulated sit out. And we'll talk a little bit about what that is. And it's based on points, and you can see that that's calculated for you. As a team manager, you need to be paying close attention to that, because if you owe a sit out, you will not necessarily get a notification from NCSL for that. We kind of have a trust but verify system where it's on the player, it's on the coach, it's on the team member to know that they owe the sit out. If they don't do it, don't sit out, then there's additional penalties, including forfeiture of games and additional sit-outs that will be owed. So you want to make sure as the team manager that you're paying close attention to that and ensuring that players and coaches and team officials that need to sit out do so, and that they document the fact that they're sitting out so that they don't get additional discipline. Here's how those points work for players. If you get a yellow card, that's a caution, right? You're not excluded from the game. You're not thrown out. It's just a caution with a yellow card being shown. You owe 5 points, or you get 5 points. Points are bad here. You get 5 points for the yellow card. If you're shown a red card, just one red card, you're ejected from the game. That's automatic. The referee will exclude the player right then and there. But they also get 10 points toward the season total. If you get 2 yellow cards, that's 2 yellows, 2 cautions. In the game with the second yellow, the referee's going to pull out a red card and exclude the player from the rest of the match. But that's not going to be we're not going to count that as 2 yellow cards and a red for 20 points. We count that just as 2 yellow cards. And so it's 10 points. So you get 5 for the yellow, 5 and 5, or 10 for 2 yellows. You get 10 for the first red card, but not if it's a double yellow red card. The most points that you can get in a game would be 15 if you're a player, because you could get the yellow card first, and then you could get a straight red. So if you get a yellow for doing something that's caution worthy, and then you come in and punch somebody and get a red card for it, you get the 5 points for the yellow, but you get the 10 points for the red, and you're ejected for the game because of the red. And that would be 15 points. For the coaches and team officials, you get 5 additional penalty points for your first card. We want to hold those parents and the adults really to a higher level. So the first yellow card's 10 points, not 5. The first red card is 15, not 10. And the max points that can be earned by a coach or a team official in a single game is 20. So how does this work? If you get a red card, you are ejected from the game, and then you owe 1 match. So you're ejected from this game, and then the very next game, you have to sit out. That's the penalty for getting the red card. Even if you don't like the red card, you still have to sit out that very next game. And if you fail to do so, you're going to have a harsh penalty that I'll talk about in a second. Let's say that you don't ever get a red card, but you accumulate points with yellow cards, and you end up with 20 points. That earns you an accumulated points sit out. So 20 points equals a match sit out. And that's true of adults, it's true of kids. So that would be for the child, it would be 5 single yellow cards. I'm sorry, 4 is going to give you that accumulated point sit out. So you would owe a match. The very next match after you hit 20, you sit out. You don't have to do that in the middle of the game and say, oh, I've got 20 now and walk away. You finish that game and then you owe that very next game you have to sit out. Once you hit the 20, then every 10 points after that, you owe another sit out. And we have people from time to time who owe multiple sit outs because they just can't behave during a game. And we keep imposing additional accumulated point sit outs after every 10. And that's going to be true with the team officials and the coaches as well. Now, as I said, it's an honor system. It's trust but verify. We're not going to monitor it actively. We do monitor it, but it's not like every time a game ends, we're paying attention and we're going to update a website or something and say to the entire world, this is who owes the sit out. We are trusting that you are going to follow this procedure. If you don't, we will find out about it because everyone tells us when somebody hasn't sit out. But if you don't and we find out about it, there's harsh penalties. So you forfeit any game that was played or coached by someone who failed to sit out. You forfeit the game. And then for a player, the player and the coach would owe a 3-game suspension. If it's just the coach that failed to sit out, the coach would have a 3-game suspension for failing to sit out. So it's very harsh because you forfeit the game that they failed to sit out on, and you're suspended the next 3. And the coach, we hold them to that responsibility of knowing what's happening, understanding that somebody owes a sit out. The coach takes it when the player fails. So if the player is played and shouldn't have played, both coach and player get 3 additional games. So you want to be very careful about that. For an accumulated points failure for a coach, we kind of have a little bit less of a penalty because it's a little different to show somebody a red card and see that, and everyone knows when they get a red card, you have to walk out of the game. For an accumulated points failure, we kind of understand this a little different. And it's a 2-game automatic suspension for that failure versus 3. But nobody wants these suspensions. These are suspensions you earn because you failed to follow the rules after you were excluded from a game or got cards. It's not what you want. So you do want to pay close attention to that. Again, this is just to highlight the fact that it's your responsibility as a coach, it's your responsibility as a team manager to follow these things. If you find that on the website we've got an error, please, please, please let us know right away. Sometimes the referees will get it wrong. They thought they gave the card to person wearing a jersey number 3, and for whatever reason they didn't see the 1. It was a 13. And so they gave the card to the wrong person. If you have that issue, let us know right away. Much better to let us know the day after the match when you see it on the website than to wait 3 weeks when the R&D committee has figured out that that kid failed to do the sit out that he owed, and you're having to try and unravel discipline that's been meted out by the Rules and Discipline Committee. Much better to do it in advance when the memory is still fresh. Okay, it's obviously very important that if you owe a sit out that you need to document that sit out. That's how we find out that the sit out has been accomplished. There's a form that I mentioned. The form is on the website for a sit out, the sit out form. You document that in advance. So you take the form with you to the game. You fill it out with the information on who's sitting out. You have the opponent sign it to verify that there was a sit out. At check-in, you tell the referee, hey, we've got a sit out. And you note that sit out on the team roster so the referee can report it when he's putting in his report. And then you email a copy of the form to NCSL so that we have a copy of the form. Keep a copy for sure, because who knows what might happen with email. And if the email is lost, you've got a copy of that form. But the player, if a player is owing a sit out, we kind of understand. Sometimes it's best for the player to come to the game and watch his, that's how you really kind of lock it in for a kid that there was some discipline that was owed, and you're not going to be able to play with your friends. So we understand that a coach may say, "I want the kid to show up." If they do show up, they can be on the spectator sideline. They can be across the field from their team. They can't sit on the bench, but they can't dress out in the uniform, and they can't participate in the game in any fashion. But they can be there. That's for players. For coaches and team officials, these adults, they can't be at the game. They can't be at the game at all. If they do come to the game, they have to be more than 100 yards from the field, from 30 minutes prior to the game to 30 minutes after the game. Doesn't matter if they're coaching the next game for another team. 30 minutes before, 30 minutes after, they can't be within 100 yards. And they can't have any contact with the team or with the bench. That means they can't get on their cell phone and coach the game from 101 yards away by calling in to somebody who's sitting on the bench and telling them what to do. We don't want that coach to participate in that game at all. We really don't want them to even be 100 yards away. Get further away, don't come. But if they do come, they can't have contact with the team or with the coaches on the bench. This is just a copy of where the sit-out form is, or what it looks like. You'll see it at NCSL Facts and Forms on the website, and you just print that out and fill it out and bring it to the game. And then I also said you email it in. The email address is written on the form, so that it's easy to find. Last point about referees. We know, as I said, we don't know where every single game is at every minute. We have a listing of all of our games. We have game numbers for every game. You'll see that game number on your team page. We know from talking with our assigners the name and contact information for every referee that's on the field. We have all of that information. Don't ever ask the referee for their name. That's probably under the new rules going to get you two-game suspension for referee abuse. But don't ever ask the referee their name and contact information. Don't ever say, "You'll never work here again," that sort of thing. Much better to just diffuse any conflict. Don't go approach the referee. If you have a problem with the referee, talk to your club rep. Tell the club rep about it. The club rep will send us a report, and we'll get information back to the assigner. We have referees that we don't allow to referee in our league anymore, because we've had so many problems with them that we just don't do it. They're kind of folks that, in my opinion, are on a power trip and shouldn't be in this sport, and we've banned them from refereeing with us. That definitely happens. It's rare, but it definitely happens. And so if you have a problem with the referee, let your club rep know. Your club rep will talk to us. We'll deal with it. Don't do it on the field, or you get suspended under the new rules. It's just as simple as that. If you do want to go up to the referee after the game for any reason, the only reason you should do it as a team official is to very, very politely ask the referee if they can verify the score and if they can verify the cards that were shown. Who got the yellow cards, who got the red cards, and what's the score. Everybody should be on the same page on those things. But don't do it in an angry way. If you can't do it in a nice way, don't even do it at all, and we'll figure it out later. If a referee doesn't show, and this happens from time to time, we've got so many soccer games in this area and so few referees by comparison. If a referee doesn't show, you can play the game with a volunteer. That person does not necessarily have to be certified as a referee. If someone's willing to volunteer and both teams are comfortable with the volunteer refereeing, then you can play the match with that volunteer. Both teams have to agree, and you should note your agreement on a piece of paper someplace. The team's roster is helpful. And there is no protesting later because that referee wasn't any good. And we get these every year. There'll be a substitute referee who comes in who's agreed in advance by the both teams. And then one team wins and the losing team calls us and says, "Well, that guy wasn't any good." We don't do that. If we agree on a referee, that referee refs the game. If we can't find a referee and you can't agree, we will reschedule the game. It's an awful situation. We don't like it. The visiting team hates driving all the way back to the home team's field, but we will reschedule for you. The reality is, if it's a small-sided game, kind of U9 to U12, much better to just play that game At U9, U10, we aren't recording scores anyway. Let's get the kids playing. As long as you feel they can be safe, let's play the game. And the results don't really matter that much. For the older teams, the older players, think about it, especially if you have somebody who's certified. I do this all the time where I jump in and volunteer to ref games because I am a certified referee. If you can find somebody who can jump in, great. That's so much better to do that. But we will honor the game if both teams refereed or both teams agreed. One more thing, we like to have, we hope to have, we want to have 3 referees at each large-sided game, the U13s and up. But we will play the game if there's only 1 referee there. As long as you have a center referee, even on a U19 game, if you have a center referee, that's sufficient. And in many leagues across Europe, that's all they ever have are single referees for even a large-sided game. We try and do 3 here, but if there's 1, that's sufficient and we play the game. We're not going to reschedule for that reason, unless the referee says, I can't do it. I refuse to do it. Then we'll obviously reschedule because that referee didn't really count. So that's what we do with referees. There are, I think this slide is basically just saying, again, the website. We put so much information on the website. We're trying as hard as we can to make that as user-friendly as possible. That is always going to be your most updated schedule. That's always going to be the most updated information we have about field closures. It is your one-stop shopping for all things NCSL is the website. The second point or second place to go, if it's not on the website or you don't feel like the website is clear, is to your club rep. Those are really the 2 sources. It's never going to be the case that the best choice is to reach out to the league. We just aren't going to be able to help you to the degree that you'd like. And that club representative, again, sits on our board of directors and is the very purpose for their volunteering is to be able to help you and help you navigate game day situations and any questions that you might have. Again, if you're late joining, our executive director has the updated slides for this presentation. He was supposed to lead this presentation. I was not even supposed to be here, and so this date of August 22nd has been changed. We will be running this again. We may decide to just play this recording on that second day and then or make the recording available on our website and then have the Q&A session just be available for people who had questions after they thought about it a little bit to be able to come in and ask questions. Or we may just do this whole presentation live again, depending on what we hear from the club reps about today, because I think we got started late and some people had to sign off. So we haven't decided exactly, since all of this is on the fly, we haven't decided exactly how we'll handle that. But Allison, when is that Q&A session for folks that want to come back in at a later time this season?
So that's this coming Tuesday, March 18th at 7 o'clock.
Okay. And your clubs have the Zoom meeting link for you. We distributed that earlier today. Hopefully Jamil will be back and he'll be able to handle that Q&A. But if after listening today and looking at the presentation, you've thought, hey, something wasn't clear and you didn't get a chance to ask it during this chat, then by all means, come on Tuesday and we'll endeavor to answer any questions you may have. I think that concludes our session today. I know we've had some questions that have been asked in chat. If there's anyone who wants to brave it and take themselves off mute and ask a question right now, we're happy to try and answer it. Okay. Hearing none, I may have put everybody to sleep, or there may not be any questions, but I'll choose to believe that it was so crystal clear that there are no questions. All right. Well, really appreciate you all spending some time with us tonight. Appreciate your patience as we scrambled to get this done tonight, despite the emergency situation for Jamil, and hope that you all have a wonderful season. We really appreciate your volunteering for this and volunteering for your kids. It's always great when the kids see their parents over there on the sideline taking responsibility and getting involved in their activity. And we really appreciate it. You'll have a good night, and we'll see you on the pitch soon.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.